That's what we were told. And to back it up, they gave us these pieces of history and information that were to encourage us also to continue the work. But remember that what we were trying to do, or what they made us do and what they turned me into, is that they were trying to create a person who could see into other realities without the use of a device. And in that mode, they recalibrated the way the brain perceived realities. I was physically blind for 29 years. I could not see physical reality the way a normal person could see. I could only see energy fields, colors, and symbols, etc., which is how I do my readings and consultations. And so when we would do our work and be projected into other dimensions and realities, we would see this information, especially when we did time travel work, where we could then go back or forward and see exactly what the situation was at any specific time. And time travel really isn't as unusual as people think it is. If you know about science, every point in time and space has a unique vibration or energy.
Okay, now I'm going to come back to time travel with you next hour, but then are you saying the first colonists on this planet were the reptilians?
Yes, I'm sorry for diverting from that, but absolutely. Right. The first beings, the first colonies here were reptilians. Therefore, they consider this to be their planet, and that we, humans or mammalians, are the alien invaders. And so they colonized a very large landmass on the planet that appeared out of the oceans, and that is been called in various cultures either Lemuria or Mu.
Aha.
Yeah, and that existed in what is now the Pacific Ocean, and that culture lasted for many, many millennia. And they developed large cities, a high technology, and basically were preparing the planet for an assimilation into the Draco Empire.
What year might that have been in terms of our knowledge of time?
That would have been close to about 800,000 BC.
800,000. High technology.
Very high technology. They brought that with them. And now I need to go back into planetary science to explain why humans came here.
Okay, and then how?
Well, yes. When molten material is ejected from a star to form a planet, that molten material is thrown out into deep space and starts then to spin. And as it spins, it starts to cool off on the surface, and the surface starts to harden. But just as what happens on the surface, on the outside happens on the inside. The centrifugal force of the spin causes the molten material inside to start pushing against the sides of this now a sphere that is forming, and so a hollow area forms inside such a planet, and the extra material is forced out through openings at the poles. And then the inside starts to harden, as does the outside, because of the coldness of space. So what you then have is a planet with a hardened outside, a hardened inside, and molten material trapped in between the inner and outer mantles. In the very center of the hollow area is leftover molten material, what sometimes is referred to as an inner sun. But it's not really a sun, it's molten material. And then the openings at the poles still exist because that's where some of the molten material was ejected. And that is basic planetary science, and a lot of the planets in this solar system, including Earth and Mars, were formed that way. And so when Mars was affected by that ice comet, the colonists went to the inside of the planet in order to have safety. And so some of those colonists wanted to come to this planet as a refuge, and a lot of the other colonies that were created from the refugees of Lyrae also needed a place to come. So it wasn't until very many millennia later that mammalians or human beings came to the Earth and colonized an area that was in now the Atlantic Ocean, and that was called, in certain cultures, Atlantis.
Atlantis. Okay, so I'm beginning to see, Stewart, just with this picture, if the reptilians were in the Pacific on Lemuria, and the human-likes were on Atlantis, and now they're both gone, I'm beginning to see the picture of some kind of major confrontation. Am I
exactly
right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, mammalians and reptilians are not designed to live in the same environment on the same planet. They have different requirements. So we basically have a situation where there's two different species that are very antagonistic towards each other, sharing the same location. So, as you can imagine, there were hostilities between Lemuria and Atlantis that went on for a very long period of time. And in fact, the Hindu Vedas talk about this. Some of these Vedas are 200,000 years old and talk about what we would describe as nuclear weapons and lances with mushroom clouds that form on the Earth, and talk about vehicles called vimanas that are what we would call spaceships or UFOs that would fly into the atmosphere.
Good point. So they annihilated each other.
Well, what really happened was, ultimately, the Atlanteans first killed off the dinosaurs. Now, the dinosaurs are to the Draco what mammalian creatures are to humanity. So there was very big battles, and of course the dinosaurs were not killed off by a meteor that struck the Earth 60 million years ago, because if that did happen, we wouldn't be talking right now. There wouldn't be anything left of this planet. That's a cover story. It was the Atlanteans who basically killed off the dinosaurs.
Okay, why did they want to kill off the dinosaurs, even though they looked similar to the reptilians?
Well, look what's happening to us now. If you want to destroy humanity, kill the food source, kill the support structure for that culture.
Did they eat dinosaurs, the reptilians?
Yes, they did. That was their source of food, work.
Okay.
That to them, like we have cows and horses and other mammalian creatures, they had those creatures. And so basically what happened was the Atlanteans used geomagnetic technology to destroy Lemuria and cause it to sink into what became the Pacific Ocean. And the only remnants of that now are the Hawaiian Islands, Japan, Philippines, Taiwan, Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand, the South Pacific Islands, and the California west of the San Andreas Fault Line is also.
And what happened to all the reptilians who were on that landmass at the time?
And now here's the interesting. The ones who survived went inside the Earth, the hollow Earth. And that began the legends of demons under the Earth or hell under the Earth. That's where that began.
So when you think of the devil, you do think of a reptilian type, horned with a tail.
Living under the Earth.
That could be what the reptilians look like. They look like the devil, or the devil looks like them.
Exactly.
And they look, it's right, and they're in the hotter part of the planet, in the inner core, down below. It makes sense. That's where Hades is.
Yes, and that's where those legends began. And the Atlanteans, contrary to a lot of New Agey information, actually were not very nice people either. They also had an agenda of genetic manipulation. They used to blend different species together to see the kind of results. Basically, they tried to create workforces made out of animals and humans, animals and insects, etc., etc. The legends of merfolk, for example, are when they took dolphins and mixed them with humans. Sasquatch or Bigfoot was the result of bear mixed with humans.
How about mermaids?
Same thing. That was dolphins mixed with human genetics.
Okay. So that's where
and that's curious, interesting, because people with autism really are descendants of that hybridization process because they have dolphin genetics, and autism is really being a dolphin in a human body for all intents and purposes. So that's another topic.
This is wild stuff, Stewart.
Well, it sounds wild if you haven't heard about it, but if you look at it and study it and you see the science behind it, it does make a lot of sense.
What happened to the Atlanteans?
Well, they basically, over a series of 3 cataclysms, destroyed their own continent, which sank beneath the ocean, became the Atlantic Ocean. The only remnants left of that are the Azores, Canary Islands, the Caribbean Islands, Bermuda. And interestingly, Montauk Point is the end of an archipelago that used to exist of Montauk.
All right, stay with us, Stuart. More to come when we come back on Coast to Coast AM.